Hello?
Hello. I'm Joanna, the on-site counselor. Please come on in.
I'm RJ.
Hi RJ. I'm glad to meet you. Please have a seat if you wish. Either chair, wherever you're most comfortable. Can I get you a glass of water? I know it's a hot day out there. Now that we've gone over the consent form, can you tell me what the main points are so I can be sure it makes sense? Let's start with the instances where disclosure of what we talk about may be required.
You'll have to tell someone if I'm suicidal, if there's neglect or abuse to a child or dependent, if I make a complaint against you, or if court requires it. Oh, and something about getting hurt.
That's right. The last part was if you tell me you're going to hurt yourself or someone else. In that case, I'll have to tell the person who is at risk and the authorities to have that person protected. Does that make sense?
If I say I'm going to hurt myself or someone else, you'll have to tell that person and the authorities to ensure everyone stays safe. That makes sense. I understand.
I can see you're very upset about last night. In addition to what you have told me, I'm noticing that your arms are crossed and your eyebrows are furrowed. Is there anything you're feeling in addition to the embarrassment you mentioned?
Oh, I'm pissed. I'm so angry and disappointed in myself. Which just makes me want to drink more. What should I do? Is there any point in trying to stay sober now?
Well, what were your initial reasons for getting sober?
I was risking losing my job because I'd call in sick a lot. My mother's pain was a big one too. She lost my dad to alcoholism, so it was hard for her to see me drinking. So I guess I quit mainly out of guilt for the pain I was causing her.
It sounds like your job and family are very important to you. I wonder, what would your life look like now if you started drinking regularly again?
I'd probably lose my job. In fact, I'm sure I would, as this morning was my final warning given my previous history.
And your mother? Has she noticed a change in you these past months?
She has been over the moon with pride. Yes, she'd be crushed if I made a habit out of it again.
You described feeling embarrassed. At what point in these events did that feeling come up for you?
As soon as I woke up and realized I was sprawled out on my buddy's couch instead of at home.
Tell me what it was, about that, which embarrassed you.
It was like I had gone back in time to my partying days. As if the last 6 months of sobriety didn't even happen.
What if I told you that the time after you woke up, and now mattered just as much?
As much as my binge last night? I don't see how it could.
Relapse can be a part of recovery. It's a common part of the process, and if you can take something away from the occurrence to help you move forward, you can actually grow. Tell me, what's one thing you could learn from the events of last night?
Shouldn't have gone out with the guys while I was angry. I had had a shitty day and knew what hanging with them would lead to.
It sounds like that's at least 2 things you learned. The group of friends you spent time with and your emotional state beforehand sound like triggers. RJ, looking at the time, I see our session for today is about halfway through. When we began talking today, you were wondering if you should drink again tonight. Where are your thoughts around that now?
Well, I guess considering the impact it would have, I better try and stay sober for now at least. But man, that's going to be tough. As shitty as it felt after, I'm still really jonesing for a drink to take the stress off.
It sounds like you could benefit from a concrete plan for getting through the next few days. What do you say we focus on building that with our remaining time? We can use this whiteboard to draw out your schedule. Walk me through what you have planned so far. For each hour of this evening and the following few days. Then we can pinpoint the areas where you might be especially tempted to drink. Alright. So from what we've drawn up here, it looks like your most challenging times will be in the morning, immediately after work, Saturday afternoons and Saturday evenings. What are some things you've done in the past to deal with those times? Think back to when you first quit drinking.
Well, I used to go for morning runs. But I bet I could just sleep in a little longer to avoid the temptation to get beer before work. Then I'd have just enough time to make it to work without any stops.
Okay, great. Go ahead and write that into the mornings you think that plan will work for you. Running can be a great way to release endorphins and relieve stress. Did you find it helpful when you used to go?
I did, yes. Especially if I was feeling angry, I would run it off and feel 10 times better afterwards. I guess I could run right after work. That tends to be when I'm most riled up. It's about 5 kilometers from my place to the site, so I could even run back home after each shift. That way I'd avoid the temptation of stopping at the bar or liquor store on my way. Can't run too well carrying a case of beer.
That's fantastic, RJ. I'm impressed that you're coming up with creative ideas to meet your goal. It looks like we just have Saturdays left to plan for.
Well, the reserve where I grew up, where my mother lives, has a drum circle every Saturday. I used to go with my brother and it was fun. He's been sober for years now, so maybe he'd like to go with me again now that I am. Sundays I visit with my mother. So there would be added incentive to avoid drinking at the circle, even if my brother doesn't join.
That's great. When do you think you'll be able to reach out to your brother?
I'll call him as soon as we're done here. It'll keep me occupied on my way home since I haven't brought my running shoes. Even if he doesn't want to come, I'll plan to go to the circle anyway.
Our time is just about up. Earlier you said your distress was at about an 8. Where would you put yourself now on that same scale? 10 being the most distressed you've ever felt and 0 as having no stress.
About a 4.
What's shifted for you to bring it down to a 4?
I feel better knowing what I want to do again and having a plan. But I'm still worried. Once the schedule we made runs out, I'll be lost again.
Well, your schedule takes you up through the weekend. How about we rebook for Monday? That way we can take a look at what worked and what was challenging through that time. We can then explore options for more long-term supports too. How does that sound?
Okay. That sounds good.
Before you leave to call your brother, do you have the phone number I gave you for the addiction support line? And the paper schedule we drew out? It's good to have a visual reminder.
Yes. I have both.
I am confident that you've got this, RJ. When struggling, remind yourself of your reasons for sobriety. And call the people we talked about if you want support. Brother, Mom, hotline. And I'll see you Monday.